In this video, we will create a long, seamless cobble street road and model and weather a concrete wall.
Hello and welcome to another video tutorial. I looked into my log and found that I made an excess of 120 videos and not a single video about a city themes and city streets and city buildings. They're all countryside except for the layout tours and the technology videos, of course, but nothing in the city. So this is new. We will model in this tutorial a concrete wall which is weathered. And on the top of this concrete wall there will be a cobble street. The trick with the cobble street is it's rolled out. So this cobble street is seamless and have no ugly joints, and it's fast to do and it's not so costly. So that's great stuff. But we're starting off with a concrete wall.
This landscape module has two levels. The upper level will host a cobble street with a row of 3 to 4 stories tall city buildings. The lower part will host a commuter station. We're starting off by plastering this concrete wall. The plaster efficiently covers the wooden texture of the 4mm plywood and gives an excellent foundation for the paintwork. The plaster I'm using is for indoor woodwork. Once ready, leave this to dry overnight. A concrete wall this tall gets kind of boring, so I will divide it into 2 sections and a concrete crash barrier on top. The edge of each section is made from 1.5mm thick balsa sheet, which I slice into 2mm width. The balsa strips are glued in place to the wall using PVA glue, and I use a steel scale to make sure they get straight and aligned. When the PVA glue has cured, we can plaster the walls using the balsa spacers or the balsa standoffs. This is what it looks like when the plaster is in place. Now leave this to dry once again overnight. One drawback with this type of plaster is that if you apply thick layers, it will crack. So we need to plaster once more and sand in between. The surface shouldn't be perfectly smooth. Some structure enhances the overall look once the paint is applied. I like to use a spray can with a flat grey paint to give a foundation for the weathering we'll apply to this surface later. This surface will now be weathered in 3 steps. The first one contains from a wash. This is a flat yellow and burnt umber acrylic paint, which is mixed with a lot of water and isopropanol. The purpose with this wash is to highlight the surface structure in the plaster, as well as giving the wall a warmer tone. I typically first cover the entire area and then apply it in streaks. The second step in weathering the wall will be to use the same color mix but without the thinner and only a tiny amount of paint on the brush. Apply it in vertical streak, so called a dry brush. The third and last step of the weathering will be made once all of the lamps and catenary and everything is mounted onto the wall, so we know we'll have streaks of rust and chalk and things like that. Let's now get started on the street. I'm using a tool from DM Toys, item H9531. There is a similar kit also for N-scale. Each kit contains from 2 rollers. This one's for tram tracks and this one's for streets and pavements. I have linked up in the upper right hand corner to the product page where you find these tools. The first thing we need to do in this scenario is to make the sidewalk edges. The edges are made from balsa strips. They are 3 by 2 millimeters and 1 meter long. I start by sanding them smooth on all 4 sides. These balsa strips are really easy to break, so just sand from where you hold them. Once they're all smooth, it's time to engrave the stones. I engrave 5 at a time. I only engrave one side, cut about 1 millimeter deep and 1 centimeter wide. Then mix plaster with black and white plus a bit of brown paint and cover all 4 sides of each strip. The sidewalk edges are glued in place using PVA glue. I take the entire length and then I cut it in position just where it is and extend it from there. These balsa strips will of course be the sidewalk edges, but they will also act as a standoff which will keep the height of the sidewalk to exactly 2 millimeters. This will enable us to make the sidewalk surface perfectly level all the way. Alright, now the edges are glued in place. I did some experimenting with this roller and found that it was very nice to have it mounted onto a roller brush handle like this. All you need besides a roller brush handle is 2 extra wide M6 or 1/4 inch washers. I used these orientation washers found on toggle switches because I had tons of them lying around. As a stopper I used a cable clamp which I fixed with fast-set glue. Since my sidewalk is 2 millimeter tall or thick, then I need some standoffs when I'm using the wooden rolling pin. The black strip and the steel scale became exactly 2.1 millimeter tall. The material we're using is Das Pronto clay, which is a gray type of clay which cures in room temperature. So I slice this and make a cake out of it. Then I'm rolling this out to 2.1 millimeter thickness using the wooden rolling pin, and then I cut first along the side of one steel scale and then exactly the width of the sidewalk using a knife and the steel scale. Then carefully peel it off from the table. I found that the clay was not very tacky, so we need to prepare the surface first with some PVA glue. In this example I'm using a bit too much. I would advise you to use a bit less and let it sit and cure a few minutes before applying the clay. Otherwise everything turned out nicely. So I'm just placing now the strip of clay in between the 2 standoffs or sidewalk edges. Pushing it a bit so I get a bit more thickness than I need. And so it fills the entire. New sections of clay are easily added. I just first make a cut so I get a straight join between them and add the next section. Then we're ready to rock and roll. Yeah, as you see, we get a perfect pattern of Cobble Street. The roller handle makes it very easy to control the force and get a uniform pressure against the entire width of clay. Then it's time for the wider sidewalk, the one which is closest to the buildings. This is a bit more of a challenge because it's wider than what my Cobble Street roller is, so I have to make 2 passes. I rolled the clay to 1.5 millimeter for the street. That gives the edges about 0.5 millimeter height over street surface, which looked good. Then it was also easy to remove the clay from the table. With the cobblestone pattern in place, it's time to push those manholes in place as well. So push them into the wet clay. And also some drains. Then let the clay cure overnight. Then make cutouts for trees or other things you may want in your street. Now it's also easy to trim away excessive clay from the top of the sidewalk edges. Alright, done. Time for painting. First layer of paint is a wash. This wash contains from burnt umber and black, plus water and some isopropanol. The mix is 2-part water and 1-part paint. Yeah, this is what it looks like. Let this dry now properly, and then we can dry brush on some light gray acrylic paint. If you accidentally use too much gray, so it also fills the space in between the stones, it's always possible to go back and add another layer of that black-brown wash. The manholes are fixed in place using fast set glue. I don't want the glue to float on the street, so I remove the excess glue with a cotton swab. For the drain, I paint first black under where I will mount it, and then I glue it in place. I drill holes for the street lights and assemble them. And then the trees, I fix them using fast set glue. And then I put the buildings in place. A million details can be added to a scene like this, but at least I put the street signs here. Yeah.
I hope you liked the video. If you did, please help others to find this video by giving it a thumbs up and sharing it on your favorite internet forums. If you have any questions at all about the methods, materials, tools used in the video, please post it in the comment field below and I'll respond to that as soon as possible. If this video helps you with your hobby, please remember that all of this is made possible because a few of you viewers are supporting the channel. So think of this as a magazine subscription. You contribute with something to get something back. It's a niche hobby, so the standard YouTube rules do not really apply for this. So if you want continuity and regularly posted videos, please get onto Patreon, set up a support account there from as low as $1 per month, or make a one-off donation via the PayPal dialog found in the video description below. Please subscribe to the channel and you will get a notification if you ring the bell when next video is released. Until that happens, see you!
This video was brought to you in cooperation with Modellbahnunion and DM Toys.